He listened to the guard's conversation in Russian and says, "Run, it's a trap." Michael Anderson could barely keep his eyes open after 17 straight hours of meetings and travel between New York City and Chicago. He had received an urgent message while waiting for his return flight, saying that his father, Richard, had been rushed to a private hospital in the Upper East Side of the Big Apple. As soon as Michael passed through the automatic doors of the main lobby, he felt something lightly touch his arm. When he turned, he saw a boy no older than 8 or 9, wearing a light blue shirt and simple jeans. The boy's dark eyes overflowed with urgency. "Are you here to visit someone, sir?" the boy asked, quickly glancing behind him. "Yes, my father was admitted today. Why?" Michael replied without paying much attention, scanning the room for the information desk. The boy moved even closer, standing on his tiptoes to reach Michael's ear. His voice was a whisper filled with fear. "Mister, run, it's a trap!" Michael stopped in the middle of the hallway, his fatigue instantly evaporating. He looked at the boy carefully for the first time. The boy didn't seem to be joking. His hands were trembling slightly. "What do you mean, kid? What are you talking about?" "Those guards over there." The boy discreetly pointed to 3 men in black uniforms talking near the reception desk. They were speaking in Russian. "I heard everything. They said you can't leave here, that they have orders to stop you." Michael felt his heart race. He looked at the security guards, then turned his eyes back to the boy. "Russian? How do you know Russian?" "My mom works here, mister, in cleaning. Since I was really little, I hang around here after school waiting for her to finish. I learned by watching cartoons and documentaries while I waited. I have a knack for languages, you know. I already know English, Spanish, and Russian, even a little German." Michael's mind processed quickly. This didn't make sense. Why would there be guards speaking Russian in an American hospital? And more importantly, why would they be discussing stopping him from leaving? "Are you sure about what you heard?" "Yes, mister. One of them said, 'When Anderson arrives, don't let him leave until she gives the signal.' The other replied, 'He'll try to leave soon.' And the third one said, 'We have to be discreet. No direct confrontation.'" Michael swallowed hard. That boy knew his last name. He knew very specific details. Either he was telling the truth or someone had trained a child very well to deceive him. "How do you know my name?" "I saw the message on the guard's phone, mister. They were looking at your photo. That's how I recognized you when you came in." A chill ran down Michael's spine. He looked around the hospital lobby, trying to spot cameras, alternative exits, anything that could confirm or deny this absurd story. The place was impeccable, with white walls, shiny marble floors, and modern decor that smelled of money. "Where's your mom now?" "On the 4th floor cleaning." "But mister, you have to believe me. I'm not lying." They also talked about documents, about a woman who was going to arrive. They said you had to sign something. Michael felt his legs go weak. Documents. A woman. Suddenly, everything started to make a twisted sense in his head. Jennifer, his ex-wife. They had divorced 8 months ago, and since then she had been trying every possible way to revise their child custody agreement for their 6-year-old son, Ryan. "What woman, kid? Did they say her name?" "No, mister. They just said she. But she seemed important. One of them said she paid a lot for this." Michael needed to think fast. If this was true, he was in danger. If it was a lie, something very strange was happening either way. He couldn't just go to the front desk and ask for his father's room as he had planned. "What's your name, kid?" "Ethan, Uncle, Ethan Parker." "Ethan, can you take me to see your mother without going through the front desk?" The boy hesitated, biting his lower lip. His eyes moved nervously between Michael and the guards. "Yes, I can. There's a service staircase over there." He pointed to a discreet door next to the main elevators. "But my mom will be mad if she finds out I got involved in this." "I'll talk to her. Please, Ethan. If what you're saying is true, I need help." The boy nodded and started walking toward the service door, staying close to the walls. Michael followed him, trying to appear casual, as if he were just exploring the hospital. When they passed through the door, they entered a hallway very different from the luxurious lobby. Here the walls were grey, the smell was of strong disinfectant, and the silence was broken only by the hum of distant machines. They climbed the stairs in silence. Ethan moved with the ease of someone who knew every corner of that place. On the fourth floor, the boy pushed the door slowly and peeked out before signaling for Michael to follow him. They walked through another service hallway until they reached a cleaning area. A woman of about 40, with her hair tied in a tight bun and wearing a navy blue uniform, was organizing products on a cart. When she saw Ethan with a man in a suit, her face immediately closed off. "Ethan Parker, what are you doing bringing people here?" Her voice was low but firm. "Mom, I need to talk to you. It's important." The woman looked at Michael with suspicion. He stepped forward, keeping his hands visible and trying to appear as non-threatening as possible. "Mrs. Parker, my name is Michael Anderson. Your son helped me downstairs. He said he heard something that could put me in danger." "Ethan, what did you get into this time?" "I didn't get into anything, Mom. I just heard the guards speaking in Russian. They were planning something with this gentleman here." The woman let out a long, tired sigh. She looked both ways down the hallway before speaking. "Get in here, quick." They entered a small storage room. Ethan's mother closed the door and turned to them with her arms crossed. "My son has a habit of making up stories, sir. He watches too much TV, too much stuff on the internet." "I didn't make anything up, Mom, I swear," Michael intervened. "Mom, I understand your concern, but there's something very strange going on. I received a message saying my father was hospitalized here. I rushed here from Chicago, but now your son tells me there are guards preventing me from leaving. If that's true, I need to know why." The woman exchanged a look with Ethan. There was something there, Michael realized. Something she knew but didn't want to say. "Mr. Anderson, I'm just a cleaning employee. I don't get involved in hospital matters. Mom, tell him what you saw last week." "Ethan, shut up." "But Mom, that was wrong. You said so yourself." Michael felt he was close to something important. "Please, Mrs. Parker, if you know anything, I need to hear it." The woman took a deep breath, clearly conflicted. When she spoke, her voice was even lower. "Last week, while cleaning the third floor, I saw a similar situation. A well-dressed man arrived saying his wife was hospitalized. The same guards who are downstairs today prevented him from leaving. There was a big argument. In the end, the man signed some papers and left in tears." "Do you know his name?" "No, but I heard the guards talking afterward. They said it was too easy, that the next one would be even better paid." Michael felt his stomach turn. It was a scam, an elaborate scheme involving a private hospital, fake security guards, and some form of extortion. And he was the next target. "Is my father really a patient here?" "I don't know, sir, but I can try to find out. What's his name?" "Richard Anderson. They say he was admitted this afternoon." The woman picked up a landline phone on the wall and dialed an extension. She spoke quietly, identified herself as a cleaning staff member, and asked about the patient. She hung up shortly after with a grim expression. "There's no Richard Anderson registered as a patient." Michael Anderson's world spun. He gripped the edge of a shelf to steady himself. None of it made sense. Who had sent the message? Why bring him there? And what did they want him to sign? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like the video and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out as we're just getting started. Now, back to the story. "Mr. Anderson, are you okay?" Ethan's voice brought him back. "No, I'm not okay, Ethan. Someone brought me here under false pretenses. And now I'm trapped." "You're not trapped, Uncle. We can help you get out." "Ethan, don't get involved in this." The boy's mother was visibly frightened. "We need this job. If they find out I helped, they'll fire me." Michael looked at the woman. She was thin, with deep dark circles under her eyes and hands marked by hard work. She probably supported the household alone while raising a child. He had no right to jeopardize her job. "You're right, Mrs. Parker. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. I'll find a way to get out of here on my own." "How, Uncle? The guards will stop you if you go through the main door, and all the emergency exits have alarms." Michael thought for a moment. He needed to understand the situation better before taking any action. He needed to know who was behind it and what exactly they wanted from him. "Mrs. Parker, can you get me a uniform? A doctor's, a nurse's, anything?" The woman hesitated. "Sir, that's—" "I know. But I need to move around the hospital without being recognized. I need to find out what's going on. And if they catch you, they'll know it was me who helped. They won't. I'll say I stole it from a locker. Please." Ethan tugged on his mother's sleeve. "Help him, Mom. It's the right thing to do." The woman looked at her son, then at Michael. Finally, she sighed heavily. "There's a locker room at the end of the hall. Sometimes doctors leave their lab coats behind. I can get one for you. But after that, I want nothing more to do with this." "Thank you, Mrs. Parker. Truly." While the woman went to fetch the lab coat, Michael was left alone with Ethan in the small storage room. The boy watched him with a mix of curiosity and admiration. "You're rich, right, Uncle? Why do you ask?" "Your suit is nice. And your watch too. My mum said only rich people come to this hospital." Michael glanced at his watch, a birthday gift to himself, bought after closing an important deal. It probably cost more than 6 months of Mrs. Parker's salary. "I have a company, Ethan. I work a lot." "Doing what, Uncle?" "Technology. We develop systems for other companies." "Cool. I want to work with languages when I grow up, be a translator, or work at the UN translating important speeches." Michael smiled for the first time since arriving at the hospital. "You'll make it, Ethan. You're very smart for your age. My mom says I should study hard, that it's the only way to have a better life than hers. Your mom is wise." The door opened and Mrs. Parker returned with a folded white lab coat and a plastic badge. It was Dr. Mitchell's. He went on vacation yesterday and left this in his locker. The badge is old from when he had more hair and was younger. It should work if no one looks too closely. Michael Anderson slipped the lab coat over his shirt and tie. He pinned the ID badge to his pocket with the photo facing inward. It wasn't perfect, but it might work. It might. "Thank you so much, Mrs. Parker. I'll return it as soon as I can. Just get out of here without anyone seeing you and forget we exist, okay?" "Deal." Michael left the storage room with steady steps, trying to project the confidence of a doctor. He walked down the service hallway until he found a door leading to the main area of the 4th floor. When he opened it, he found himself in a wide, well-lit corridor, with rooms on each side and a nursing station in the center. 2 nurses were chatting by the counter. Michael passed them with a brief nod as if he were in a hurry. They didn't even look up from the papers they were reviewing. A good sign. He entered the elevator and pressed the button for the ground floor. As he descended, he formulated a plan. He needed to find out who had lured him there and what these people wanted. Jennifer was the obvious suspect, but it seemed too elaborate for her. His ex-wife was manipulative, yes, but something of that magnitude required planning and resources. The elevator doors opened on the ground floor. Michael stepped out, trying to maintain a relaxed posture. He saw the 3 guards still near the reception desk. One of them glanced in his direction but quickly looked away. Guards don't pay attention to doctors. Michael walked toward the administrative sector. If a scam was being run there, someone from the hospital administration had to be involved. Private hospitals don't let armed security guards roam freely without official authorization. He passed through a glass door leading to an office area. A young receptionist greeted him. "Good evening, doctor. Can I help you?" "I need to confirm a patient's registration, Richard Anderson. He would have been admitted today." The woman typed on the computer, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "Richard Anderson? Let me see. No, doctor. There's no record with that name today." "Are you sure the family received a notification?" "Yes, I am. Would you like me to check the last few days?" "Please." The woman clicked a few times. "Nothing in the last 5 days, doctor." Michael thanked her and left. So it was confirmed. His father had never been admitted. The message was fake. But who had access to his personal information to know his father's name? Who knew he would drop everything to visit his sick father? Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed down the hall. "Michael? Michael Anderson?" He turned and felt his blood run cold. There, walking toward him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, was Jennifer. His ex-wife was wearing an impeccable navy blue suit, her perfectly brushed blonde hair falling over her shoulders. She carried a leather briefcase under her arm. "Jennifer, what are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same." Although, she looked at the lab coat, that's an interesting costume. I always wanted to marry a doctor. Anger began to boil inside Michael. Was it you who sent that message about my father? What message, Michael? What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. I know something's going on here. Guards speaking Russian, papers to sign. Did you set all this up? Jennifer laughed, but there was nervousness in her eyes. Have you lost your mind? Guards speaking Russian? Sounds like a spy movie. Then why are you here? Why at this very hospital on the same day I get a fake message about my father? Jennifer's mask of calm began to crack. I came because I need to talk to you, about Ryan, about the custody agreement. And you couldn't call, schedule a normal meeting? You never answer my calls, Michael. Your lawyer blocks any attempt at contact. I was desperate. So you made up that my father was hospitalized? You paid security guards to keep me from leaving? Jennifer looked around, visibly uncomfortable with the possibility of someone overhearing. Let's talk somewhere more private. I'm not going anywhere with you. Say what you have to say here. Michael, please, this is about our son. He needs you. He needs both of us. Ryan is well taken care of. He has everything he needs. Except a present father. The phrase hit Michael like a punch. He saw Ryan every 2 weeks, as determined in the divorce agreement. They spent the weekend together, but then the boy would return to Jennifer's house. He always cried when he had to leave. I do what I can within the agreement that you insisted on keeping. I made mistakes, Michael. I admit it. But I want to change that. I want us to have real shared custody, so Ryan can stay with you during the week too. Michael wanted to believe it. A small, naive part of him wanted to believe that Jennifer had changed, that she really cared about their son's well-being, but experience had taught him to be cautious. And the papers in that folder? Let me guess. A new custody agreement that somehow benefits you financially? Jennifer pressed the folder against her chest. It's not like that. It's a fair agreement. Then why didn't you go through my lawyer as you should? Because your lawyer hates my family. He twists everything I propose. With good reason. You tried to take half of my company in the divorce. I was hurt, Michael. Angry. I wasn't thinking straight. Before Michael could respond, one of the guards appeared in the hallway. Tall, broad-shouldered, with closely cropped hair. He looked at Michael and Jennifer and approached. Is everything all right here? He asked in clear English, without a trace of an accent. Yes, Jennifer replied quickly. Just talking. The guard looked at Michael's lab coat. Doctor, is this lady a relative of yours? We're acquaintances, Michael answered. I see. Well, just checking. Security protocol. The guard moved away, but Michael noticed he didn't go far. He stayed close enough to observe them, so Ethan was right. The guards were there because of him. Jennifer, I don't know what you're planning, but it won't work. I'm leaving now, and you can talk to my lawyer if you want to discuss any changes to the agreement. Michael, wait. Jennifer grabbed his arm. Just read the papers, that's all I ask. Read them, and if you don't agree, tear them up. But at least read them. Something in the desperation of her voice made Michael pause. He had known this woman for 15 years. They had married young, had a son, built dreams together. Everything fell apart when he discovered she was having an affair with his business partner, but there were still remnants of their history there. Where do you want me to read? There's an empty meeting room over there. She pointed to a door at the end of the hallway. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Against his better judgment, Michael agreed. He followed Jennifer to the room, checking if the guard was still watching. He was. This wasn't normal. This was definitely not just an insistent ex-wife. The room was small, with an oval table and 6 chairs. Jennifer closed the door and placed the folder on the table. She took out a series of documents from inside and carefully arranged them. Look, Michael, here it's proposed that Ryan spends 1 week with you, 1 week with me, alternating. No changes in alimony, no financial adjustments, just the physical custody itself. Michael picked up the papers and began to read. At first glance, it seemed exactly what she described, but he knew the devil is in the details. He started reading each line carefully. It was on page 3 that he found it, a small clause in a smaller font, stating that any important decision regarding Ryan's education, health, or future would be made by the mother. with the father having only a consultative voice. In practical terms, Jennifer retained all decision-making power. This here, he pointed to the clause. Do you really think I would sign something like this? Jennifer turned red. It's just a formality, to ensure there are no conflicts. Formality? You strip me of all decision-making rights over my own son and call it a formality? Michael, you don't understand. I need this. I need control over his situation. Why? What's going on, Jennifer? What's the game this time? She stood up abruptly, starting to pace back and forth in the small room. There's no game. I'm trying to protect our son. Protect him from what? From you, from your obsession with work, from your inability to be truly present. That's ridiculous. Ryan is perfectly fine with me. For 2 days every 2 weeks, you barely know your son, Michael. The argument was escalating. Michael took a deep breath, trying to calm down. I won't sign this. If you want to change the agreement, it has to be fair. You don't understand. Jennifer's voice was trembling now. I need you to sign, today, now. Why? Why the urgency? Because... She stopped pacing and looked at the closed door. When she spoke again, her voice was low, almost a whisper. Because I'm in trouble. Serious trouble. And I need guarantees. What kind of trouble? Financial. Very financial. Michael sat down heavily in one of the chairs. So that was it. It wasn't about Ryan. It never was. It was about money, as always. How much do you owe? A lot. I invested in businesses that went wrong. I trusted the wrong people. And now they're collecting. And what does that have to do with this agreement? Jennifer didn't answer immediately. When she did, she avoided his gaze. With shared custody, I can use our son as collateral to get bigger loans. Show that I have stability, responsibility. Michael felt nauseous. She was willing to use her own son as a bargaining chip for debts. You've completely lost your mind. I have no choice, Michael. If I don't get the money, I'll lose everything, the house, the car, everything. And you thought I would help with that, after everything you've done? I thought you would care about Ryan's well-being. If I lose everything, where will he live? With me, where he always should have stayed. Jennifer took a step back as if she had been slapped. You can't take my son away from me. I'm not taking him away. You're destroying yourself. The door to the room opened abruptly. 2 of the security guards entered, followed by a woman in a grey pantsuit whom Michael had never seen. Mr. Anderson, said the woman with a cold smile, I think it's best if you sign the papers. Who are you? Someone who is trying to help Mrs. Jennifer solve her problems, and you are making it difficult. Michael stood up, his body tense. I won't sign anything, and you can't force me. Can't we? The woman made a sign and the guards approached. Mr. Anderson, you are in a private hospital, far from witnesses, wearing a stolen lab coat. It would be very easy to claim that you were confused, disoriented, perhaps under the influence of some substance, and then yes, you would sign whatever was necessary. This is kidnapping, extortion. This is business, and you are a businessman. You should understand. Michael looked at Jennifer. She was pale, trembling, looking at the floor. She wasn't strong enough to have planned this alone. There was someone behind it manipulating the situation. How much does she owe you? The woman smiled. Privileged information, but let's say it's enough to justify this meeting. If I sign, will you leave her alone? For now. That's not enough. It's what we have to offer. Michael looked at the documents on the table. If he signed, he would lose any decision-making power over Ryan. Jennifer would have total control. But if he didn't sign, those people clearly had no scruples. They could do worse. He thought of Ethan up there, the 8-year-old boy who had learned Russian by watching educational cartoons because he had nowhere else to go while his mother worked. He thought of Ryan, his 6-year-old son who cried every time the weekend ended. He thought of all the children growing up surrounded by adults making terrible choices. No, he finally said. I won't sign. One of the guards moved, but the woman raised her hand to stop him. Think carefully, Mr. Anderson. Your refusal will only make things worse for everyone. You can't force me to sign anything. Eventually someone will notice I'm missing. My partners, my lawyers, someone will come looking. And when they do, They'll find a man who broke into a hospital, stole a lab coat, was seen arguing with his ex-wife. Your word against ours, and we have much more credibility in this establishment." Michael understood then the magnitude of what he was facing. They weren't just opportunistic criminals. It was something organized, with reach within the institution itself. The hospital was compromised, or at least parts of it. "What do you want besides the signature?" "For you to be reasonable, to understand that helping Jennifer is helping your son. Helping her use Ryan as a bargaining tool isn't helping my son. It's condemning him to a life as an object." Jennifer finally spoke, her voice hoarse from holding back tears. "Michael, please. They'll hurt me if I don't pay. They'll do terrible things." "Then go to the police, Jennifer. File a report." The woman laughed humorlessly. "The police? How cute. Mr. Anderson, do you really think it would be that simple?" "I think you're bluffing. If you had that much power, you wouldn't need all this show." The tension in the room was palpable. Michael knew he was at a disadvantage in numbers and territory, but he also knew that intimidation only works if you show fear. And he was too tired, too angry to be afraid at that moment. That's when he heard a knock on the door. Everyone in the room turned. The door opened slowly and Ethan appeared, holding a cell phone. "Sorry to interrupt," the boy said with an innocence Michael knew was calculated. "But Dr. Mitchell called. He wants to know who took his lab coat." The woman in the suit looked visibly irritated. "Boy, this is none of your business. Get out of here." "Okay. But he said he already called security, the real security, not that one." Ethan pointed to the fake guards. Michael had to hold back a laugh. That boy was a genius. The woman looked at the guards, clearly reassessing the situation. "You, take Mr. Anderson somewhere else, and someone shut that kid up." But before they could move, the sound of voices in the hallway paralyzed them. Ethan had left the door ajar, and people could be seen passing by, lots of people. Some kind of unusual commotion was happening. The woman pulled a radio from her pocket and spoke quietly. "What's going on out there?" A voice crackled in response. "Someone triggered the fire alarm. The evacuation protocol is active." Michael looked at Ethan. The boy gave a small smile and winked. He had triggered the alarm. An 8-year-old boy had just saved his skin by using the hospital's own system against the kidnappers. The commotion in the hallway grew. Nurses, doctors, patients, all starting to move toward the exits. The woman realized she had lost control of the situation. "This isn't over, Mr. Anderson. We'll meet again." "Can't wait," Michael replied sarcastically. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, feel free to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The guards left first, followed by the woman. Jennifer stayed behind, still pale, still trembling. "Michael, Later, Jennifer. Right now we need to get out of here." Ethan was already in the hallway, waving for them to follow. Michael took off his lab coat and left it in the room, grabbed Jennifer by the arm, and they left. The movement was chaotic but organized. People followed the emergency exit signs, going downstairs, being directed by hospital staff. Michael, Ethan, and Jennifer blended into the crowd. When they reached the outside parking lot, fire trucks were already arriving. The false alarm had caused quite a commotion. "Ethan, where's your mother?" "I texted her. She already left through another door. We're meeting at the bus stop over there." Michael looked at that little boy who had, in a matter of minutes, dismantled a complex extortion plan using only his intelligence and courage. "Ethan, you saved my life today." "It was nothing, Uncle. We just have to be smarter than the crooks." Jennifer, who had remained silent, finally spoke. "I'm so sorry, Michael, for everything. You were right. I should never have gotten involved with these people." "How did you get involved with them, Jennifer?" "How did it come to this?" She started crying, tears streaming down her impeccable makeup. "I was alone, broke. A friend introduced me to this woman, said she could lend me money. I didn't know they were loan sharks. When I found out, it was too late." "How much did you borrow?" $200,000. With crazy interest, I now owe almost $500,000. Michael closed his eyes. It was a lot of money. Money he technically had, but couldn't just give to her without consequences. "Jennifer, you'll have to resolve this legally. A lawyer, debt renegotiation. maybe even bankruptcy if necessary. They said they'll hurt me if I don't pay. Then you need protection, and you need to report this. Michael, you don't understand. These people have connections. Within the police, within hospitals, within everything. Ethan tugged at Michael's sleeve. Uncle, my mum is over there. We need to go. Michael saw Mrs. Parker waving from the bus stop. She looked terrified. He knew he had put that family at risk by accepting their help. Ethan, go with your mum. I'll handle the rest. But, Uncle, go and thank you, really. The boy hesitated, but ended up running toward his mother. Michael watched the two of them getting on a bus that drove away shortly after. At least they were safe for now. Jennifer, I'll take you home. First thing tomorrow, we'll meet with my lawyer and see how to fix this. They'll be waiting for me at home. They know where I live. Then you'll stay at a hotel. I'll pay, but after this, you have to take control of your life. Jennifer nodded, with no strength to argue. They walked to the parking lot where Michael had left his car. When they arrived, they saw that the tires were slashed, all 4 of them. They don't give up easily, murmured Jennifer. Michael called a cab using an app. While they waited, he couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened in the last few hours. He had been lured into a trap, almost forced to sign harmful documents threatened by criminals. All because his ex-wife had made bad decisions and was now paying the price. But there was something bigger there. That woman in the pantsuit had mentioned connections. The hospital was clearly involved somehow. Fake security guards moving around freely, rooms being used for extortion. It wasn't an isolated crime. It was systematic. The cab arrived. Michael settled Jennifer in the back seat and gave the driver instructions to take her to a hotel near the airport, far from her home. He paid up front and watched the car drive away. He stood alone in the semi-empty parking lot, the sound of fire trucks still echoing from the hospital building. He picked up his phone and called his lawyer. Dr. Reynolds, it's Michael. I need you to listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, and I'll need your help to resolve something very serious. He spent the next 20 minutes recounting everything. The lawyer asked specific questions, took notes, and at the end sighed heavily. Michael, this is serious, very serious. I'll need to involve some people, but it might take time. How long? Days, maybe weeks. This type of investigation is complex. Jennifer might not have weeks. I'll do what I can. For now, keep her in a safe place. And you be careful too. If there really is a loan shark network operating within private hospitals, they won't like having been exposed. Michael thanked him and hung up. He was tired, hungry, and his clothes were wrinkled. He needed to go home, take a shower, organize his thoughts. But first he needed to make sure Ethan and his mother were okay. He didn't have their contacts. He didn't know where they lived, but he knew where Mrs. Parker worked. He went back inside the hospital, which was now being cleared by the firefighters after confirming it was a false alarm. He went up the service stairs again to the 4th floor. He found the storage room where he had been earlier. The door was open, and Mrs. Parker was inside, putting away cleaning supplies with trembling hands. Mrs. Parker. She turned around, startled. Mr. Anderson, what are you still doing here? I wanted to thank you and apologize for putting you and Ethan in danger. My son shouldn't have gotten involved in this. I already talked to him. Your son is extraordinary. He saved my life today. My son could have been hurt too. These people are dangerous. I know. That's why I came to talk to you. I think you shouldn't stay here for a few days until things calm down. And go where, Mr. Anderson? I have rent to pay, bills, work. I can't just disappear. I'll pay. Whatever you need, I'll pay. You just need to stay safe. Mrs. Parker stared at him with suspicion. Why would you do that? Because you helped me when you didn't have to. Because Ethan is a special child who deserves to grow up without fear. And because it's the right thing to do. The woman took a deep breath, clearly conflicted. Michael could see the internal struggle written on her face. Accepting help was difficult, especially when she had spent her whole life having to manage on her own. Mr. Anderson, I don't want charity. It's not charity, it's protection. Temporary. And when everything is resolved, if you want, I can help Ethan with his studies. Languages, whatever he needs. His talent can't be wasted. Mrs. Parker's eyes filled with tears. You don't know us. Why do you care? Because today I learned that sometimes the most valuable people are those society values the least. Ethan is 8 years old and has more courage and intelligence than many adults I know. Mrs. Parker finally gave in. She gave Michael her address and phone number. They agreed that the next day he would send someone to pick them up and take them to a safe place until the situation with the loan sharks was resolved. When Michael finally got home, it was past midnight. His apartment in Tribeca seemed different somehow. Everything was in the same place, but something had changed. Maybe it was he who had changed. He took a long shower, letting the hot water wash away the stress of the day. As the water fell, he thought about all the decisions he had made, all the things he had taken for granted. He had a successful company, money in the bank, an apartment in an upscale neighborhood. But he had almost been manipulated and kidnapped because he hadn't verified a simple message about his father. He needed to reassess his priorities. He needed to be more attentive, more present, not just in Ryan's life, but in his own life. He lay down on the bed but couldn't sleep. The images of the day played on a loop in his mind. Jennifer desperate, the woman in the pantsuit with her cold smile, the fake guards. And Ethan, an 8-year-old boy who had learned Russian by watching cartoons and used that knowledge to save a stranger. Around 3 in the morning, his phone rang. It was an unknown number. He hesitated before answering. Hello? Mr. Anderson. It was the voice of the woman from the hospital. I hope you're comfortable at home. Michael sat up in bed, completely alert. How did you get my number? We have resources, just as we have resources to know where you live, where you work, where your son goes to school. His blood ran cold. If you touch Ryan, I'll... Calm down. Nobody's going to touch anyone, as long as you cooperate. What do you want? The same thing as before. Your signature, your resources, your help to pay off Jennifer's debt. I already said I won't do that, even knowing your son might face the consequences. Michael gripped the phone so hard his fingers hurt. You're making a mistake, a very big mistake. No, Mr. Anderson, you're the one who made the mistake. You thought you could leave the hospital unscathed, cause trouble, involve that cleaning lady's family. Now all of you are in our sights. Leave Ethan and his mother out of this. They have nothing to do with it. You should have thought of that before accepting their help. But look on the bright side, Mr. Anderson. Now there are more people you need to protect, which means more motivation to cooperate. I'll go to the police. Go ahead. File a complaint. We'll deny everything. And while the investigation drags through bureaucratic procedures, a lot of bad things can happen to the people you love. You're monsters. We're pragmatic. We have a business. Jennifer owes us money. You have money. It's simple math. How much do you want in total? 500,000 in cash by noon tomorrow. It's impossible to move that much money so quickly. Then I suggest you try hard. We have accounts under shell companies. I'll send the details by text. By noon tomorrow the money needs to be there, or we start collecting in other ways. And if I pay, will you leave everyone alone? For now, until Jennifer finds another way to get into debt, which will certainly happen. But that's not our problem at the moment. The call ended. Seconds later, a text with bank details arrived. Michael looked at the numbers on the screen. $500,000. It wasn't an amount that would break him, but it was significant. And there were no guarantees they would take the money and disappear. He could involve the police, but that would take time. He could hire private security to protect Ryan, Ethan, and all the others. But again, it would take time to arrange. And these criminals seemed to have considerable resources and connections. He spent the rest of the night awake, devising a plan. He couldn't just pay and hope they'd go away. He needed something more. He needed to expose them, dismantle the operation, ensure they wouldn't come back. When dawn broke, he called Dr. Reynolds again. Michael, it's 6 in the morning. Sorry, but they called me. They're demanding 500,000 by noon. Don't pay. It's the worst thing you can do. They threatened Ryan and the family that helped me yesterday. Threats are a crime. We can use that. We don't have a recording. It's my word against theirs. Then record it. Next time they call, record it. What if there is no next time? What if they just act? The lawyer was silent for a moment. Michael, You're talking about paying $500,000 to criminals. That doesn't solve the problem. It just postpones it. I know, but I need to buy time. Time for you to investigate, for us to build a solid case. It's too risky. My son is at risk. I can't afford to do nothing. All right, but do it my way. Don't transfer everything at once. Split it into payments, create a trail, and meanwhile I work behind the scenes. Michael agreed. He spent the morning organizing the transfers, dividing the amount among 3 different payments to 3 different accounts. It wasn't exactly what the criminals had asked for, but it would be a start. By noon, he transferred $200,000. He sent a message to the number that had called, "First payment made, the rest comes in 2 days. I need time to liquidate assets without raising suspicions." The reply came almost immediately. 2 days, not a minute more. Michael breathed a sigh of relief. He had 2 days to come up with a better plan, 2 days for Dr. Reynolds to investigate, 2 days to ensure everyone's safety. He called Miguel's school and asked them to increase security, citing threats from a contentious divorce. He called Mrs. Parker and insisted that she and Ethan stay at home, doors locked, until he sent someone to pick them up. He called Jennifer at the hotel and instructed her not to leave for any reason. He was building a protective barrier, but he didn't know if it would be enough. These criminals had shown they were organized, patient, and had reach. That afternoon, Michael received an unexpected visit at his office. When his secretary announced that there was a lady asking to see him, he couldn't imagine who it might be. It was a woman of about 65, with graying hair pulled back in a bun, wearing simple but clean clothes. She entered the office with a dignified posture, despite the evident tension in her shoulders. "Mr. Anderson, my name is Margaret Parker. I'm the mother of Amanda, the hospital cleaner." Michael stood up immediately, offering a chair. "Mrs. Parker, please, have a seat. Would you like some water, coffee?" "No need, I came here because I need to talk about my granddaughter and my daughter." "Granddaughter? Ethan is my grandson. I live with them, and I know what happened yesterday at the hospital." Michael sat down as well, prepared to listen. "Ethan told me everything, how you were in danger, how he helped, how now all of you are in trouble with bad people." "Mrs. Parker, I'm very sorry to have involved your family in this. That's not what I came to talk about. I came to talk about something else." She opened her bag and took out a yellowed envelope. "I came to talk about what I know about these people. You know them. Not personally, but I've seen them. I've heard things. I've worked in hospitals for 30 years, Mr. Anderson. I've been a cleaner, a cook, an assistant. I move in places that people like you don't even know exist, and in that invisible world we see a lot of things. What did you see?" "I've seen this scheme happen before, several times, always in expensive private hospitals, always with rich people who have something to lose." "How does it work?" "They choose a target, someone with money but also with weaknesses. An ex-wife in debt, a sick father, a son with problems, They create a situation that brings that person to the hospital, and then they trap them there, pressure them, force them to sign or pay." "So, it's a criminal organization?" "Yes, and it's not small. There are people inside the hospitals helping. Doctors, nurses, administrative staff. Everyone gets a cut." Michael felt his stomach churn. It was worse than he had imagined. "Do you have proof of this?" Margaret pointed to the envelope. "I have records, names, dates, amounts. I've been writing them down over the years. I never knew what to do with it. I was afraid. But now that my grandson is involved, I can't stay silent anymore." "Why did you keep all this?" "Because I saw people suffer. I saw families destroyed. I saw good people manipulated. And I always thought that one day, somehow, it would serve a purpose." Michael took the envelope with trembling hands. Inside were page after page of handwritten notes. Names he didn't recognize, but that probably meant a lot. Dates ranging from 5 years ago to recent weeks. Amounts ranging from 50,000 to over 1 million. "Mrs. Margaret, this is gold. It's exactly what we need to dismantle this operation." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. "But there's a problem, Mr. Anderson. If I hand this over officially, I'll lose my job. My daughter will lose hers. And there's still Ethan to raise. Don't worry about that. I guarantee you'll be taken care of, financially and safely. I don't want charity. And it's not. It's justice. You're risking yourself to do what's right. That has value. Margaret fell silent for a moment, her eyes fixed on her wrinkled hands in her lap. You know, Mr. Anderson, I lost my husband 10 years ago. He was tricked by a similar scam. Owed $20,000. Started paying, but the interest was so high it turned into 40, then 60. When he realized he could never pay it off, he became desperate, had a heart attack. The doctor said it was the stress. Michael felt a lump in his throat. I'm so sorry. That's why I started taking notes. Every time I saw this scheme happening, I wrote it down. I thought if I had information, maybe I could prevent other families from going through what mine did. And you will prevent it. With what's here, we can build a solid case. We can bring down this entire organization. Do you promise to take care of my family? I promise, with all my heart. Margaret nodded, stood up, and extended her hand to Michael. Then do what you have to do, end these demons. After Margaret left, Michael spent hours examining the notes. They were meticulous, detailed, an investigative work worthy of a professional. Margaret had recorded not just names and amounts, but also behavior patterns, times, specific locations within the hospitals where the extortions took place. There were mentions of at least 3 different hospitals. What Michael was experiencing wasn't an isolated case. It was a systematic operation that had been running for years. He called Dr. Reynolds and asked him to come to the office immediately. When the lawyer arrived and saw the contents of the envelope, his eyes widened. This is dynamite, Michael. Pure legal gold. Can we use it? We can and we should. But we need to do it right. Involve the right authorities. Protect the witnesses. How long? To build a case like this, weeks, maybe months. We don't have months. I have 2 days until the next payment. Dr. Reynolds paced the room, thinking aloud. Okay, here's what we'll do. You make the second payment as agreed. That keeps them calm. Meanwhile, I take this material to a prosecutor I know. Someone trustworthy who isn't compromised. He can start a parallel investigation. What if it leaks that we're investigating? That's why it needs to be discreet. Nothing official yet. Just gather more evidence, identify those involved, build the case. I don't like being passive. You're not being passive, you're being strategic. By paying $500,000, you're buying time. Time we'll use to destroy this organization. Michael knew the lawyer was right, but every cell in his body wanted to act, wanted to resolve it immediately. He was tired of being manipulated, of having his life and the lives of the people he loved threatened. That night, he went to visit Ryan at Jennifer's house. She was still at the hotel, so the nanny was taking care of the boy. When Ryan opened the door and saw his father, his little face lit up. Dad, you came. Yes, I did, champ. I missed you. He hugged his son tightly, smelling the familiar scent of baby shampoo and candy. Ryan was 6 years old but seemed smaller in his arms, fragile, vulnerable. Everything Michael wanted most to protect in the world. Dad, is Mom sick? Why do you ask that? Because she's not here. Nancy said she had to travel, but I know she's a bad liar. Michael felt a pang of guilt. That child had already been through a messy divorce. He didn't deserve more instability. Your mother is sorting some things out, son, but she'll be back soon. Can I stay with you in the meantime? Of course, in fact, how about we sleep here tonight, you, me, and Nancy? Ryan's eyes lit up. Really? Like camping? Like camping. They spent the night setting up a makeshift tent with sheets in the living room, eating pizza and watching cartoons. For a few hours, Michael managed to forget about criminals, extortions, and threats. It was just him and his son, laughing, playing, being a family. But when Ryan finally fell asleep, wrapped in blankets inside the sheet tent, reality came crashing back. Michael sat on the couch and checked his messages. There was a new one from the woman. We expect the rest in 36 hours. Don't test our patience. Michael typed a reply. You'll get it, but after that stay out of our lives. Until then, all of you are under surveillance. The ex-wife at the hotel, the son here, the cleaning lady's family in Queens. We know where everyone is. Just a reminder. Michael felt chills. They really had impressive resources and reach. They weren't amateurs. They were professional criminals operating for years without being caught. But now they had a problem. They had threatened the wrong person. Michael wasn't just another scared rich guy. He was a tech entrepreneur who understood systems, tracking information, and he was furious. The next day, he made the second transfer of $150,000. That left $150,000 to complete the $500. But while doing so, he also set his own plan in motion. He hired a private investigator, a former federal police officer, specialized in financial crimes. He gave him all of Margaret's information, plus the data of the bank accounts where he was transferring the money. The investigator promised to trace the flow, identify the final beneficiaries. He also hired a private security company to discreetly protect Ryan, Mrs. Parker, Ethan, and Margaret. Civilian guards, without uniforms, who looked like ordinary people but were always nearby. And finally, Michael did something that went against all the advice he had received. He decided to confront the criminals directly. He called the number from which the messages were coming. "Mr. Anderson, I didn't expect a call from you. I want to make a proposal. We're not interested in proposals. We want the money. And you'll get it. All of it. Today. The last $150,000. But I want to do it in person." "In person?" "Yes, I want to hand it over personally. I want to look you in the eyes and know that after this, we're even." There was a pause. Michael could imagine the woman considering the options. "Why would we do that?" The transfers were working fine. "Because transfers leave traces. Cash doesn't. I can withdraw it all and deliver it in cash. You get it clean with no risk of future tracking." Another pause. Longer. "Mr. Anderson, I admire your courage, or your stupidity. I haven't decided which yet. So, do you accept?" "Where and when?" "Today, 6 p.m. You choose the place." "The hospital. Same place where it all started. There's a certain poetry to that." "Fine, but I want guarantees. No armed guards, no violence, just the exchange." "We're not in a position to negotiate terms, Mr. Anderson. Neither am I to trust you blindly. Either you accept these conditions or there's no money." More silence. "All right. 6 p.m. Hospital basement, parking lot, space G25. Come alone." "I will." He hung up and immediately called the investigator. "Robert, I need you and your team at the hospital parking lot at 5:30, hidden but there, and bring recording equipment." "Michael, this is too dangerous. They might have weapons." "That's why you'll be there, as backup, but hidden. They can't know I'm not alone." "You're crazy." "Probably, but I need to end this, and I need proof, video and audio evidence, indisputable." "Does your lawyer know about this?" "Not yet, and I'd rather keep it that way until after." Robert sighed on the other end of the line. "Your funeral, but we'll be there." Michael spent the rest of the day organizing everything. He withdrew $150,000 in cash, money he placed in a simple suitcase. He left detailed instructions with Dr. Reynolds about what to do if something went wrong. He wrote a letter to Ryan, which he sealed with instructions to only open it in case of an emergency. At 5:30, he arrived at the hospital. The underground parking lot was poorly lit, damp and cold. Spot G25 was in an isolated corner, perfect for a criminal meeting, or for an ambush. Michael parked nearby, but not exactly in the designated spot. He stayed in the car, the suitcase on the passenger seat, waiting. He checked if the small recorder in his pocket was working. It was. At 6 o'clock sharp, a black car with tinted windows entered the parking lot. It stopped exactly in spot G25. 2 doors opened. The woman in a pantsuit got out on one side, one of the fake guards on the other. Neither of them seemed armed, at least visibly. Michael took a deep breath and got out of the car, taking the suitcase with him. He walked toward them, keeping a safe distance. "Mr. Anderson, punctual. I admire that. I brought what you asked for. $150,000 in cash." "Great. Put it on the ground and step back." "Not before we have a conversation." The woman laughed. "Conversation? About what? About how this ends. I need guarantees that after this delivery you leave me, my family, and my friends alone. We already said yes, at least until your ex gets into trouble again. That's not enough. I want to know you'll disappear completely from our lives. The guard took a step forward. You're not in a position to make demands. Michael didn't back down. I have $350,000 of your dollars. I think that gives me some position. The woman signaled for the guard to stop. Mr. Anderson, I'll be honest with you. We don't make long-term guarantees. It's not how we work. We solve immediate problems. If new problems arise, we solve them again. For a fee, of course. So this payment today doesn't solve anything. It solves Jennifer's problem for now. And if I refuse to pay in the future, then we use other methods of persuasion. We've been gentle with you, Mr. Anderson. Don't force us not to be. Michael gripped the suitcase tighter. You talk as if you're invincible. But every criminal organization has a weak point. Maybe. But you're not going to find out what ours is. Now the money. We're losing patience. One last question. Why hospitals? Why this specific scheme? The woman tilted her head. Morbid curiosity. Genuine curiosity. Because hospitals are places of vulnerability. People arrive desperate, emotionally fragile. It's easy to manipulate them. And private hospitals have a wealthy clientele. It's simple math. Vulnerability plus money equals opportunity. And the staff? How do you convince them to participate? Money, Mr. Anderson. Always money. A doctor earns well, but always wants to earn more. A security guard earns little and wants to earn enough. Everyone has a price. Including you? The woman smiled coldly. Especially us. Now, enough talk. The money. Michael placed the suitcase on the ground and pushed it toward them with his foot. The guard bent down to pick it up, opening it to check the contents. He nodded to the woman. Pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Anderson. I hope I don't have to see you again. The feeling is mutual. The woman and the guard returned to the car. Michael remained standing, watching. The car started and began to leave the parking lot. That's when it all happened. Suddenly, 3 cars blocked the exit. Men quickly got out, not in uniform but clearly authorities, Robert's team. The woman tried to reverse, but another car appeared, blocking the rear. Michael saw through the window when the woman realized she was surrounded. Her face, always so controlled, finally showed real panic. The guard beside her was speaking rapidly in Russian, probably cursing. Robert approached Michael. We got everything. Audio, video, the whole confession. She explained the entire scheme. And them? My contacts are already involving the right authorities. This is too big to keep private. Michael felt his legs go weak. It had worked. His crazy, risky, and probably irresponsible plan had worked. Those people would be held accountable. The organization would be dismantled. In the following days, everything happened quickly. The investigation revealed an extortion network operating in 4 hospitals in New York City. 17 people were arrested, including doctors, security guards, administrators, and the loan sharks themselves. The woman in the tailored suit was, in fact, a disbarred former lawyer who used her legal knowledge to structure the scams. Jennifer gave a full statement, admitting her involuntary participation and providing details on how she was co-opted. The prosecutor, seeing she was more a victim than an accomplice, offered a deal. She would undergo mandatory therapy, perform community service, and have her debt legally cancelled since the loan sharks operated illegally. Margaret and her notes became a key part of the case. Her meticulous testimony helped connect old cases to the current operation, showing a pattern of years. The judge publicly praised her courage and determination. Ethan became a local minor celebrity when the story leaked to the press. The 8-year-old boy who had learned Russian by watching cartoons and used that knowledge to save someone. Broadcasters requested interviews, schools offered scholarships, but Ethan and his family just wanted to return to normalcy. Mrs. Amanda accepted a better job at Michael's company, working in the administrative sector. Margaret was hired as a human resources consultant, using her decades of experience to improve employee conditions. Ethan received a full scholarship to a bilingual school, where he could finally develop his talent for languages. Michael completely renegotiated the custody agreement with Jennifer, this time fairly and balanced. Ryan would spend half the time with each parent, and all important decisions would be made together. Jennifer, still in therapy, was beginning to rebuild her life with more responsibility. 3 months after the hospital incident, Michael organized a barbecue at his apartment. He invited Ethan, Amanda, Margaret, Jennifer, and of course, Ryan. It was a sunny November Sunday, and the apartment balcony offered a privileged view of the city. "Uncle Michael, can I ask you a question?" Ethan approached while Michael flipped the meat on the grill. "Of course, Ethan. Why did you trust me that day? I was just an unknown kid saying crazy things." Michael thought for a moment before answering. "You know, Ethan, sometimes you have to trust your instinct. And my instinct told me you were speaking the truth. Besides, you had that thing in your eyes that can't be taught. Sincerity. And what if I had been wrong, if the guards weren't really speaking Russian, if I had misunderstood? Then I would have lost a few hours at the hospital and found out my father was fine. It wouldn't have been so bad. But you took a risk, because of what I said. I take risks every day in business, Ethan. I risk money, time, reputation. Taking a chance on trusting a smart kid was one of the best bets I ever made." Ryan joined them, tugging on Ethan's arm. "Come see my room. I got a new game." The two boys ran off, and Michael smiled at the genuine friendship that had formed there. Ryan had gained an older brother, someone he admired and wanted to imitate. Ethan had gained a friend and an extended family. Margaret approached, carrying a dish of stuffing. "Mr. Anderson, may I offer some advice from someone who's lived through a lot?" "Of course, Mrs. Parker." "Don't let this episode define you. Yes, it was important. Yes, it changed many lives, but life goes on. Don't get stuck in the past, not even in a heroic past." "You're right. But it's hard not to think about everything that happened." "I know. Believe me, I know. I spent years brooding over the loss of my husband, blaming loan sharks, blaming the system. But eventually I realized I had to move forward. For myself, for my daughter, for my grandson. How did you manage it?" "One day at a time, one decision at a time, and by surrounding myself with good people, like you did." Jennifer was sitting on the couch talking with Amanda. The two women were laughing about something, and Michael was happy to see his ex-wife, lighter, more present. Therapy was working. She was facing her demons, acknowledging her mistakes. Later, when everyone had eaten and the children were playing in the living room, Michael and Jennifer met in the kitchen. "Thank you," she said suddenly. "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For paying that money even when I didn't deserve it. For risking everything to save me. I didn't do it for you, Jennifer. I did it for Ryan. He needs his mother." "I know. But still, thank you. And I'm sorry. For everything. For betraying you, for trying to take your company, for being so selfish." Michael leaned against the kitchen counter. "We all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them. I'm trying. Every day, I'm trying to be better. For the first time in years, I wake up and don't think about money, status, material things. I think about being a better mother, a better person." "Ryan has noticed the change. The other day he told me you seem happier." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. "I am. Paradoxically, losing everything made me gain what really matters." The following month, Ethan had a presentation at his new school. It was a talent show, and he had signed up to do something no one expected. Michael, Amanda, Margaret, and even Jennifer with Ryan came to watch. When Ethan took the stage, he was visibly nervous. But as soon as he began, confidence took over. He recited the same poem in 4 different languages: English, Spanish, German, and Russian. Each version maintained the meter and emotion of the original. It was about courage, about doing the right thing even when afraid, about trusting strangers who became friends. The audience was completely silent. When he finished, the applause was deafening. Parents, teachers, and students stood up clapping. Ethan had not only demonstrated his linguistic talent, but had touched hearts with his message. After the presentation, a teacher approached Amanda. "Mrs. Parker, your son is exceptional. Have you thought about entering him in national language competitions?" "I didn't know that existed." "It does, and I'm sure Ethan would do very well. May I give you the contacts?" Amanda looked at Ethan, who was chatting animatedly with new classmates. Her son, who used to wait alone for her to finish work, now had friends, opportunities, a bright future ahead. Yes, please do. That evening, back at home, Ethan was helping Margaret prepare dinner. The grandmother was chopping vegetables while the grandson organized the seasonings. "Grandma, do you think I did the right thing that day, at the hospital?" Margaret stopped chopping and looked at her grandson. "What makes you ask that?" "Sometimes I find myself thinking, what if it had gone wrong? What if those people had hurt you or Mom because of me?" "Ethan, look at me." Margaret took the boy's face in both her hands. "You did what you thought was right. You saw someone in danger and tried to help. That's courage, that's character, and I couldn't be prouder. But you always told me not to get into trouble. And I stand by what I said. But there's a difference between looking for trouble and doing the right thing when trouble finds you. You didn't seek out that situation. It appeared, and you reacted with bravery and intelligence. And if it happens again, then you'll use the same good judgment you used that time, and you'll know you're not alone. You have a family that supports you. You have friends who protect you." Ethan hugged his grandmother tightly. Margaret felt tears streaming down her face. They weren't tears of sadness, but of gratitude. Gratitude for having such a special grandson. Gratitude for having survived that ordeal. Gratitude for better days that would surely come. Michael, meanwhile, was in his office working on a new project. He had decided to create a relief fund for families victimized by loan sharks. He would use part of his company's profits to offer legal advice, psychological support, and financial guidance for those who fell into the traps that nearly destroyed Jennifer. Dr. Reynolds had helped structure the fund legally, ensuring it would be sustainable and efficient. Margaret would be one of the main consultants, using her experience to identify victims and offer real support. "Michael, this is going to help a lot of people," said the lawyer during a meeting. "I hope so. No one should go through what we went through. And if my money can make a difference, then it's worth it. You've changed, you know, since that day at the hospital." "Changed?" "Yes. Before you were only focused on work, on growing the company. Now you have a bigger purpose." Michael thought about that. It was true. The experience had transformed his priorities. Money was still important, but it was no longer the ultimate goal. It was a tool to do good, to protect those he loved, to build something meaningful. 2 months had passed since the last gathering with everyone together. It was Christmas Eve, and Michael had once again invited Ethan, Amanda, Margaret, Jennifer, and Ryan to spend the evening at his apartment. This time there were other people too. Co-workers, friends, even Dr. Reynolds and Robert, the investigator, were present. The Christmas tree in the corner of the living room was fully decorated, Christmas presents underneath, waiting to be opened. Ryan and Ethan had helped decorate, and the result was a chaotic but charming mix of colorful ornaments. During dinner, Michael stood up and asked for attention. "I'd like to make a toast. This year has been intense. I went through moments I never imagined living. I faced dangers, made tough decisions, almost lost everything that mattered. But in the midst of all that, I gained something precious. I gained a family." He looked around the table, friendly faces looking back with sincere smiles. "I gained the courage of an 8-year-old boy, the wisdom of a lady who turned pain into purpose, the dedication of a hard-working mother, a second chance with my son and my ex-wife. And I reaffirmed friendships that are worth more than any business." Ryan raised his glass of juice. "Toast to family," everyone repeated, raising their glasses. The sound of the toast echoed through the room, sealing not just that moment, but everything they had built together. After dinner, while the adults chatted and the children played, Ethan approached Michael with a small package in his hands. "Uncle Michael, this is for you." "Ethan, you didn't have to." "I wanted to. Open it." Michael unwrapped the gift carefully. Inside was a hand-drawn picture. It was the hospital corridor with 2 figures, a man in a suit and a small boy. Above them, written in several languages, was the word courage. "Ethan, this is beautiful. I made it so you'd remember that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about being afraid and doing the right thing anyway. That's what you taught me." Michael hugged the boy, feeling emotion tighten his throat. Sometimes the most important lessons come from the most unexpected places, and sometimes the wisest teachers are only 8 years old. The party continued through the night. There was music, dancing, laughter, and many stories. Jennifer told about her new therapy and how she was learning to value simple things. Amanda talked about her new job and how different it felt to be treated with respect. Margaret shared memories of her husband, but this time without sadness, just fondness for the memory. When everyone had left and Ryan was asleep in the guest room, Michael sat on the balcony looking at the illuminated city. New York City at night was chaotic but beautiful, millions of lives intersecting, each with its own story. He thought about how it all began, a fake message about his father, a boy who spoke Russian, guards who weren't guards, and how that trap ended up being the best thing that could have happened to him. Not because it was easy, far from it, but because it forced him to reevaluate everything, to reconnect with his son, to help people in need, to find purpose beyond profit. His phone rang. It was a message from Ethan. "Uncle, thank you for everything. You changed my life. And I think I changed yours too. Merry Christmas." Michael smiled and replied, "You sure did, champ. For the much better. Merry Christmas to you and your family." He put away the phone and went back to observing the city. Tomorrow would be a new day. There would be new challenges, new decisions, new paths to choose. But for the first time in a long time, Michael felt prepared, because now he had something money couldn't buy, a real family by his side. The following year, many things changed. Ethan won first place in a national language competition, earning him a scholarship for a special talent development program. He started learning Mandarin and Japanese, expanding his linguistic repertoire. Amanda was promoted twice in Michael's company, taking on a leadership position in the administrative department. She discovered she had a natural talent for people management, probably inherited from years of observing and understanding different types of personalities in hospitals. Margaret published a book telling her story and offering guidance for people facing debts with loan sharks. The book became a reference, even used by social workers and labor lawyers. She began giving talks on resilience and courage. Jennifer completed her therapy and started a management course. She wanted to rebuild her career, but this time with solid and ethical foundations. She and Michael maintained a friendly relationship focused on Ryan's well-being, proving that ex-spouses can indeed coexist peacefully. Ryan thrived in the new family dynamic. He had 2 homes where he felt loved and secure. He became more confident, more communicative, happier, and he had developed a deep friendship with Ethan, considering him the older brother he never had. Michael expanded the fund to help victims of loan sharks, assisting hundreds of families. He also began dedicating time to talks on business ethics and corporate social responsibility. His company grew, but now growth came with purpose. One day, almost 2 years after the hospital incident, Michael received an unexpected letter. It was from the woman in the pantsuit, the leader of the extortion operation. She was in prison, serving an 8-year sentence. The letter was handwritten, elegant handwriting contrasting with the nature of the content. "Mr. Anderson, I don't expect forgiveness, I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that I deeply regret everything I did, not just with you, but with all the victims over the years. I grew up in a family that valued money above all else. I learned that success was measured by zeros in the bank account. When I lost my lawyer's license for unethical conduct, instead of reflecting and changing, I just found other ways to use my skills for illicit gains. Here in prison, I had time to think. A lot of time. I read about the fund you created, about the families you helped, about how you turned tragedy into purpose. I did the opposite. I turned talent into destruction, and now I pay the price. I know I cannot undo the harm I caused, but I can try to do differently from now on. I'm studying to help other inmates with free legal advice. It's not much, but it's a start. Thank you for being brave in that parking lot. You could have just paid and moved on, but you chose to fight, and by fighting, you saved other potential victims. With respect and regret, Samantha Hughes." Richard read the letter several times. There was sincerity there, no doubt. But there were also consequences for actions, and Samantha was living hers. He wouldn't respond to the letter, but he would keep it. It was a reminder that people change, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, and that choices matter. Ethan graduated from middle school with honors. At the graduation ceremony, he was invited to give a speech representing the class. Richard, Amanda, Margaret, Ryan, and Jennifer were in the audience, proud. Friends, teachers, families, Ethan began, his voice steady despite the nerves. When I entered this school 3 years ago, I was just a boy who liked languages. Today I leave here as someone who understands that languages are bridges. Bridges between people, between cultures, between different realities. He paused, looking at Richard in the audience. I learned that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting in spite of it. I learned that family isn't just blood. It's choice. It's support. It's love. I learned that a simple gesture can change lives, and that we all have the power to make a difference. The applause was warm. Ethan stepped off the stage straight into his mother's arms, who was crying with pride. Margaret was beside her, smiling with teary eyes. Ryan was jumping excitedly, celebrating his friend's success. After the ceremony, everyone went to celebrate at a restaurant. It was a relaxed dinner, full of stories and laughter. Richard watched that eclectic group that had become his extended family and felt deep gratitude. "Uncle Richard," Ethan called him at the end of dinner, "can I talk with you for a minute?" They went out to the restaurant's outdoor area. The night was clear, stars visible despite the city's light pollution. "What is it, Ethan?" "I wanted to thank you for everything, for the studies, for the opportunities, for believing in me." "Ethan, you don't need to thank me. I did what anyone would do." "No, you didn't. Most people would have moved on, would have forgotten about the cleaning lady's boy who helped that day. But you didn't. You cared. Really." Richard put his hand on the boy's shoulder. "You know what I learned, Ethan, that the most important investment we can make is in people, not in stocks, not in real estate, in people, especially in young talents who can change the world." "Do you think I can change the world?" "You already have. You changed mine. You changed your families. And I'm sure you'll change many others." They went back inside and joined the others. The celebration continued until late, marking not just Ethan's graduation, but how much everyone had grown and evolved together. Months passed. Richard was invited to give a lecture at a university about entrepreneurship with purpose. He accepted, but on one condition, that Ethan accompany him and share his perspective. On the day of the lecture, the auditorium was packed. Students of business administration, engineering, law, all wanting to hear about how to balance financial success with social responsibility. Michael began by telling his story. The trap at the hospital, the boy who spoke Russian, everything that followed. Then he passed the floor to Ethan. The boy, now 13 and taller, stepped onto the stage with a confidence he didn't have before. "I'm 13 years old," he began, "so I can't talk about decades of professional experience. But I can talk about something I learned very young. Never underestimate the power of doing the right thing." He told his version of the events, how he was simply waiting for his mother at the hospital, how he learned languages because he had nothing better to do, how one day he used that knowledge to help a stranger. "I could have ignored it. It was safer, easier. But something inside me said it wasn't right. And when I followed that instinct, I changed not only Uncle Michael's life, but my entire life. I gained a family. I gained opportunities. I gained purpose." The audience was in absolute silence, absorbing every word. "So my advice is, don't wait until you're 40 and have a lot of money to start making a difference. Do it now, with what you have, where you are, because sometimes the biggest change starts with the smallest gesture." The applause was enthusiastic. Students stood up. Teachers smiled in approval. Ethan had touched on something fundamental, that age and resources are not prerequisites for positive impact. After the lecture, several students approached wanting to talk more. A young woman with curly hair pulled Ethan aside. "Thank you for sharing your story. It inspired me. I work at a daycare on weekends and sometimes I think it doesn't make a difference. But you reminded me that it does." "It makes all the difference," Ethan replied. "Every child you help could be the next person to change the world." Michael watched from afar, proud. Ethan was no longer just a talented boy. He was becoming a leader, an inspiration, an agent of change. And it all started with a simple act of courage in a hospital corridor. That night, already at home, Michael received a call from Jennifer. "Hi, Michael, can I talk to you about something important?" "Of course. What is it?" "It's about Ryan. He asked me if he can live with you during the week and with me on weekends." "Reverse the current arrangement." Michael felt his heart race. "And what did you say?" "That I needed to talk to you first. But Michael, I think it's a good idea. He's growing up. He needs a more stable routine, and you can offer that better than I can right now. Jennifer, you're a wonderful mother. You've changed a lot. You've worked hard." "Thank you, but I know my limitations. My apartment is small, my schedule is still unstable, and Ryan needs an environment where he can study well, have friends nearby. Your apartment offers that." "Are you sure? I don't want you to feel like I'm taking him away from you." "I'm sure, and you're not taking him away. We're building the best for him together, which is what we should have done from the start." Michael felt emotion tighten his throat. Jennifer had really changed. She was putting her son's needs above her own ego. It was a maturity he hadn't seen in her for years. "Then let's talk, the three of us together. Let Ryan participate in the decision. After all, it's about him." "I agree. Tomorrow?" "Tomorrow." The next day, Michael, Jennifer, and Ryan met in a park. It was a sunny Sunday, children playing around, a cheerful and relaxed atmosphere. They sat on a bench near the playground. "Ryan," Jennifer began, "your father and I want to talk with you about where you want to live." The boy, now 8 years old, looked between the two with a serious expression. "Can I choose?" "You can," Michael replied. "We want you to be happy, and happiness starts with being where you feel good. I like staying with both of you. I don't want to hurt anyone." "It won't hurt, son," Jennifer assured. "Whatever you want, we'll respect it." Ryan thought for a moment, swinging his little legs that didn't reach the floor. "Can I live with Dad during the week because it's closer to school and Ethan, but sleep over at Mum's every Friday and Saturday? And can we have breakfast together on Sundays? All three of us?" Michael and Jennifer exchanged glances. It was a solution they hadn't considered, but it made perfect sense. Ryan wanted both parents present, each offering what they did best. "I would love that," said Jennifer. "Me too," Michael agreed. Ryan smiled, relieved. "And can Ethan come over sometimes on Sundays too? He's my best friend." "Of course he can." From that Sunday on, a new routine was established. It was an unconventional routine, but it worked. Ryan lived with Michael during the week, going to school, doing homework, having dinners with his father. On Fridays, Jennifer would pick him up and they spent the weekend together. Sunday mornings, everyone gathered for breakfast, often with Ethan and sometimes other members of the extended family. It was an arrangement that required constant communication, flexibility, and above all, maturity. But everyone was committed, and Ryan thrived in that cooperative environment. One Sunday, during the joint breakfast, Ryan asked a question that took everyone by surprise. "Dad, Mom, why don't you try to be real friends? Like, go out together to do things?" Jennifer almost choked on her juice. "Ryan, your father and I are friends, but it's different from before." "Why? You get along now, you laugh together, you talk." "Ethan said people can be friends even after they've dated." Michael intervened gently. "Son, your friend is right. But friendship between adults is complicated. There's history, there are hurts that need time to heal completely. But it's been almost 3 years since you separated. Isn't that enough time?" Jennifer looked at Michael. There was something in her eyes, a vulnerability he recognized from the times when they were young and in love. "Ryan, thank you for caring," said Jennifer. "But some things don't go back to how they were. And that's okay. What matters is that we have you, and we're all doing well." Ryan accepted the explanation, but Michael realized the boy had planted a seed. For the first time in years, he looked at Jennifer and felt no anger or resentment. He felt affection for the person she had become, respect for the effort she had made to change. It didn't mean they would get back together as a couple. That ship had sailed. But it meant that healing was possible, that people could evolve, that endings didn't always have to be bitter. Ethan graduated from high school at 17, a year younger than his classmates, because he had skipped a grade. He had earned a full scholarship to a federal university, where he would study international relations. His dream of working with languages and diplomacy was getting closer. At the graduation party, the whole family was present. Amanda, who now ran an entire department at Michael's company. Margaret, who had published her second book and was a sought-after speaker. Michael, Jennifer, and Ryan, the mosaic family that worked despite all the odds against it. "Look how we've grown," commented Margaret, watching Ethan with the other graduates. "It seems like just yesterday he was a little boy waiting for his mother at the hospital. And now he's almost a man," Amanda agreed, her eyes misty. "My baby is going to college." "And he's going to do amazing things," Michael assured. "I'm absolutely certain." Ryan, now 12, was next to Ethan taking pictures. The two had remained close friends over the years despite the age difference. Ethan was a mentor, older brother, and best friend to Ryan, and Ryan was the little brother Ethan never had, but always wanted. When everyone had left and only the immediate family remained, Ethan asked for a moment of attention. "I want to thank all of you, Mom, Grandma, for raising me with love and solid values, Uncle Michael, Aunt Jennifer, and Ryan, for welcoming me as family. You've transformed my life in ways I never imagined possible." He pulled a folded paper from his pocket. "I've been accepted into an exchange program. I'll spend a semester studying in Brussels at the European Union headquarters. It's always been my dream, but I couldn't have done it without your support." Amanda started crying. Margaret hugged her, also emotional. Michael felt immense pride. That boy he'd met in a hospital corridor was conquering the world. "We're going to miss you," said Ryan. "And I'll miss you, but I'll be back. And when I return, I'll have so many stories to tell." Ethan's farewell to Brussels was bittersweet. The whole family went to the airport. There were hugs, tears, promises of weekly video calls. When Ethan passed through the boarding gate and waved one last time before disappearing, Amanda had to lean on Michael to keep from falling. "He'll be fine," whispered Margaret. "We raised him for this, to fly." "I know," sobbed Amanda, "but it's hard to let go." "Yes, but it's also beautiful, seeing everything he's become." The following months were about adjustments. Ryan missed his conversations with Ethan. Amanda missed having her son at home. But the video calls helped. Ethan shared his adventures in Brussels, the people he met, the places he visited. He was living his dream. Michael, inspired by the success of the Loan Shark Victim Assistance Fund, decided to expand his social projects. He created a mentorship program for underprivileged youth interested in technology and entrepreneurship. The program offered free classes, equipment, and connections with professionals in the field. Jennifer, who had a degree in business administration, joined the project as coordinator. She had found her calling, helping others rebuild their lives as she had rebuilt hers. Working with Michael wasn't as awkward as one might imagine. It felt natural, complimentary even. "You know," she said one day during a planning meeting, "I think we needed to go through all that to get here." "Go through what?" "The divorce, the near tragedy with the loan sharks, all the suffering. It was necessary for us to mature, to find real purpose." "You might be right, but I wouldn't want to repeat it." "Me neither, but I'm grateful, because today we're better people, and we're making a real difference." It was true. The program had already benefited over 100 young people in 2 years. Some had gotten jobs in the technology field. Others had started their own businesses. All had gained opportunities they wouldn't have had otherwise. Ryan, now 15, volunteered to help with the program. He enjoyed teaching basic programming to the younger children. He discovered he had natural patience and teaching skills. "Dad, I think I want to do this when I grow up," he said one day. "Do what?" "Teach. Help people learn new things. It's rewarding." Michael smiled. His son was finding purpose early in life, much earlier than he had. "Then we'll support you in that, whatever path you choose." When Ethan returned from Brussels after 6 months, he was welcomed like a celebrity. The whole family was at the airport with signs and balloons. He emerged from arrivals tanned, more mature, with the confidence of someone who'd seen the world and found his place in it. "How was it?" asked Ryan, hugging his friend. "Amazing. Difficult. Transformative. I'll tell you everything. But first, is my mom okay? She looks thinner on video." Amanda laughed through her tears. I'm fine, son. I just missed you. I missed you too. All of you. That night, there was a welcome party at Michael's apartment. Ethan had brought gifts from Europe for everyone. Belgian chocolates, souvenirs from countries he visited, printed photos of special moments. So, asked Michael, did Brussels meet your expectations? Exceeded them. I worked with diplomats from 20 different countries. I learned about international policies, about how nations cooperate in conflict. It was exactly what I needed. And now, what are the plans? Finish university here, then do a master's degree, maybe abroad, and eventually work in an international organization. UN would be the dream. You'll make it, affirmed Margaret. If anyone can, it's you. Life continued its pace. Ethan returned to his studies with renewed passion. Ryan was advancing in high school, developing an interest in education and technology. Jennifer was thriving in her social work. Amanda kept climbing the corporate ladder. Margaret continued to inspire with her lectures. And Michael finally found balance. His company remained successful, but it was no longer his only definition. He was a present father. He was a mentor. He was an agent of social change. He was a friend. He was family. 5 years after the hospital incident, Michael was invited to give an interview on a popular entrepreneurship podcast. The interviewer wanted to know about his journey, especially the transformation from a businessman focused only on profits to someone dedicated to social impact. It was a trap, Michael explained. Literally. I was lured to a hospital under false pretenses. I was almost kidnapped and extorted. But in that moment of vulnerability, an 8-year-old boy had the courage to warn me. And that changed everything. How did it change everything? It made me realize I was living superficially, focused on numbers, on growth, on success measured by external standards. That boy, coming from a humble family, taught me more about courage and purpose in one day than years of MBA had taught me about business. And where is that boy now? Ethan is in university, studying international relations. He went to Brussels on an exchange, preparing for a career in diplomacy. But more importantly, he continues to be an essential part of my life and my son's life, his family. That's beautiful and unusual. Maybe it should be more common. Families don't need to be just biological. They can be people we choose, who add value to our lives and to whom we add value. The interview resonated. Thousands of people listened and shared. Many reached out saying they were inspired to make a difference in their communities. Others shared their own stories of how simple gestures changed their lives. Michael realized that by sharing his story, he was multiplying his impact. Every person who listened and became inspired became an agent of change too. It was a cascade effect, starting with a boy who overheard a conversation in Russian and had the courage to warn a stranger. On the 10th anniversary of the hospital incident, Michael organized a special gathering. He invited everyone who had been involved. Ethan, now 23 years old and working at the American consulate in Rome, Amanda and Margaret, Jennifer, Ryan, 17 years old, about to enter university, Dr. Reynolds, Robert, the investigator, even some of the families that had been helped by the fund. It was a large group gathered in a banquet hall. Michael asked for attention and began to speak. Today marks 10 years since I lived the most frightening day of my life. I was lured into a trap. I faced criminals. I almost lost everything. But it was also the most important day, because it set me on the path that brought me here. He pointed to the people around him. I met Ethan, who saved me and became like a son. I reconnected with my own actual son. I made peace with my ex-wife. I met Margaret and Amanda, who taught me about resilience. And through all this, I found greater purpose. Ethan, watching via video call from Rome, raised his glass in a toast. Uncle Michael, you always thank me, but you're the one who turned a terrible moment into something beautiful. You took tragedy and made it an opportunity. That takes real courage. Margaret stood up, 75 years old, but still vibrant. May I speak? Everyone nodded. When I started writing down those crimes, I didn't know what to do with the information. It was just pain, anger over what they did to my husband and other victims. But Michael took that and turned it into justice, into real help. My husband didn't die in vain. His suffering meant something, and for that I'm grateful. Amanda added, and I'm grateful because my son, who could have grown up invisible like I was most of my life, was seen. He was valued. Today he works at a consulate. He represents the United States in the world, because of a man who decided that a cleaner's son was worth it. Michael felt tears streaming down. They weren't tears of sadness, but of fulfillment. His life had meaning, it had purpose, and it all started with the decision to trust an 8-year-old boy who spoke Russian. The party continued. Stories were told and retold. Families who had been helped by the fund shared how they were rebuilding their lives. The mentorship program brought young people who now worked in tech companies, some even starting their own businesses. It was a full circle. From suffering came hope. From the trap, freedom. From near disaster, family and purpose. When everyone had left and only Michael, Ryan and Jennifer remained, the three sat on the balcony looking at the illuminated city. "Can you believe it's been 10 years?" asked Jennifer. "It feels like yesterday, and at the same time a whole lifetime ago," replied Michael. Ryan, now a young adult about to start college, looked thoughtful. "Dad, what would you say to yourself 10 years ago, if you could go back?" Michael thought about the question. "I'd say to trust people more, to value relationships as much as business. And I'd say never to underestimate the impact a child can have on the world. And you, Mom," Jennifer sighed, "I'd say not to make decisions out of fear or greed, to be honest with myself about my limitations. And I'd say that hitting rock bottom is sometimes necessary to be able to rise again." "You've both changed a lot," observed Ryan. "We've all changed," said Michael. "That's what people do when they truly live. They change, grow, evolve. I hope I change too, for the better. You will, I'm sure." The three fell into a comfortable silence, each lost in thought. 10 years ago, they would have been three strangers. Today they were family, in the truest sense of the word. Not just by biology, but by the daily choice to be present, to support each other, to grow together. Michael's phone rang. It was Ethan. "Uncle, I forgot to say something at the party." "What?" "Thank you. For everything. For seeing me when I was invisible. For trusting me. For changing my life. Ethan, you're the one who changed mine. Never forget that. I know I say this all the time, but I need you to understand. I was just a lost boy in a hospital hallway, and you turned me into someone who's changing the world, working to build bridges between nations, all because you decided I mattered. You always mattered. You just needed someone to recognize it. And you did. For that I'll be eternally grateful." After hanging up, Michael returned to the balcony where Ryan and Jennifer were still talking. The night was clear, a rarity in New York City. "Was that Ethan?" asked Ryan. "Yes, thanking me again. He's always been grateful. I think it's one of his best qualities." "It really is, but sometimes I think he values what I did too much. I just gave opportunities. He's the one who took advantage of them." "But Dad, how many people would have given those opportunities? You chose to see potential where others would only see a poor boy. That is special." Michael embraced his son. Ryan was growing up, becoming a wise and compassionate man. Part of that was nature, but part was environment. And Michael was happy that he was growing up in an environment that valued character above wealth. The following years brought more changes. Ryan entered university to study education, wanting to become a teacher. Ethan advanced in his diplomatic career, being transferred to New York to work at the American mission at the UN. Jennifer took over full management of the company's social projects. Amanda retired after 40 years of working, finally able to rest. Margaret remained active, now writing her third book. Michael, at 55, decided to gradually pass the management of the company to successors. He wanted time to dedicate himself more intensely to the social projects and to be present in Ryan's life, and perhaps one day in the lives of grandchildren. On an ordinary Saturday afternoon, Michael visited Margaret at her home. The 80-year-old lady was lucid and active, but preferred receiving visits to going out much. "Mr. Michael, may I say something I've been thinking for a long time?" Of course, Mrs. Margaret. Do you know what I admire most about you? I don't know. What? That when you had the chance to become a victim, you chose to become a hero. Not for yourself, but for others. That is rare. I don't feel like a hero. I just did what was right. Exactly. A true hero doesn't think they're a hero. They just do the right thing because they don't know how to do otherwise. Michael spent the rest of the afternoon listening to Margaret's stories about her years working in hospitals, the people she met, the lessons she learned. It was valuable oral history, and he recorded everything with her permission, thinking of one day compiling it into a book. When the sun began to set and it was time to leave, Margaret held his hand for a moment. Thank you for valuing my Ethan. Thank you for listening to my stories that day in your office. Thank you for turning my pain into something that helped others. You gave meaning to my husband's loss. You were the one who did that, Mrs. Margaret. I just helped amplify it. Then thank you for amplifying, and thank you for letting me be part of this beautiful family you built. When Michael left Margaret's house, night had already fallen. He walked to his car, but before getting in, he stood for a moment looking at the stars. He thought about everything that had happened since that day at the hospital 10 years ago, all the lives that had crossed paths, all the changes, all the growth, and he realized that what seemed like a trap was actually a gift disguised as tragedy, but a gift nonetheless, because it forced him to wake up, to truly live, to make a difference. His phone vibrated. A message from Ethan. Uncle, I just got promoted. I'm going to coordinate an international cooperation program for education. Fulfilling dreams I didn't even know I had. Thank you for always believing in me. Michael replied, Congratulations, champ. Well deserved. I'm proud. And thank you for having courage that day at the hospital. You saved more than my life. You saved my soul. He got in the car and drove home, where Ryan was waiting for him for dinner. It was an ordinary Saturday night. Nothing special. But at the same time, special precisely because it was ordinary. Because it was family. Because it was real life lived with purpose and love. And when he got home and found Ryan in the kitchen preparing dinner, Michael knew with absolute certainty that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Doing exactly what he was supposed to do, being exactly who he was supposed to be. The trap had freed him, and he was eternally grateful for that. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of the story and where you see us from. If you have something to share with us, leave it in the comments with sincere words. Do you believe that Michael made the right decisions by trusting Ethan that day? We're happy to read your opinion. Thank you so much for your company. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other exciting stories.